Hey everyone! Today I'm going to show you how to make 3 simple alterations to 3 different basic vessels. So when you know you want to throw several smaller pieces, you can actually do something called throwing off the hump. And in order to do that, first you have to wedge a larger chunk of clay, center it, and then raise it into a conical shape. And you only end up working off of the top. Now, throwing off the hump can be very useful in saving time, but it can also come with its own set of problems. The first being you have to make sure that you wedge properly, otherwise your clay is going to be filled with air bubbles and it will just throw off all of your pieces. The second problem is centering. It is harder to center a large chunk of clay, and if it's not centered well enough, it can actually throw off your top piece that you're working on. Thankfully, I did a pretty decent job with this one, so I'm not really having any issues. One of the other things you really do need to pay attention to is compressing the foot or the bottom of the piece you are throwing. Otherwise, when it fires, it's going to crack at the bottom. So the first piece I made is a bowl, and I am going to first cut into the bottom to create a groove where I am going to go in with the wire tool to separate it from the hump. Once I am done with that, before taking it off the hump, I am going to actually alter the lip and make it triangularly shaped. I like this design. I came up with it in college. I'm sure it's not original, but still, it's when I started doing it because I had a lot of cereal and I just loved to drink the last bit of my milk, and this made it easier. Now, before you make your second piece, you have to clean up the clay again, lift it back up, and re-wedge on the wheel your cone. So I'm raising the clay, compressing it, and then fixing the cone, and then with my pinkies actually, I'm pushing into the top of the clay and creating a groove of separation between the clay that I'm using for my next piece and the bottom of the hump. For this second piece, I am going to make a cup, and I'm actually going to spiral it, which looks awesome, and sometimes I have amazing success with this and other times it just collapses on me. When you go to spiral one of your vessels, you need to be very careful. Some people are really good and they can spin it super fast, and for me, I have to go a little slower because if I do it too fast and my clay is really thin, it just sort of collapses on me. So I started spiral. As you can see, I ended up not liking what I did, so I smoothed it back out. And now I'm trying again and slowing the wheel down as necessary. I am going to attach a handle to this after, so it'll be a spiraled mug. What I'm doing right now is cleaning the lip. I have a chamois that you just get wet and you use it to clean off the top of your vessel. And I used a tool to create a little spiral at the bottom of the cup. So again, I use another tool. I think I'm using my wooden tip to create a groove where I go in with the wire tool to remove my vessel. Awesome. Now for this last piece, I'm actually going to use the rest of the clay because I am going to make a wavy bowl. Now, fun fact, I've never done this with clay before. I've only ever done glass blowing, and the process is, well, different, but it's a lot of fun. And I've always loved the results. And then I saw someone do this in clay, and I just decided I had to try. Now the process for this is interesting because first you have to throw a bowl, and then you actually flip the bat upside down. So you do not cut the bowl off, you leave it attached, flip the bat upside down, and you set it up between two stools to set. And once the bowl is more or less set, like it's a little bit softer than leather hard, you can actually flip it back over and start altering the wave to your liking. Now, because I've never actually done this before in clay, I wasn't entirely sure what curvature I needed for best results. So it was an experiment, and I think it turned out well. The process was rough, but it turned out really nice. And now I've learned from my mistakes, so I know what to do better next time. So once in a while I like to go in with the chamois and clean up the lip and compress it a little bit as well. And when you start to open your bowl, remember to support the clay and not to go too fast. Because if you open it too much too fast, then it'll collapse. Now this is where my lack of experience actually shows, because I thought I needed to widen the bottom as well as the top to get a better flop, if you will, or a better wave. But I think if I just kept it more triangular instead of curved, it would have worked better. I saw someone do this differently. This one lady opened it all the way like a plate, but then let it collapse and touch the bat, and then separated it from the bat and flipped it over. Now, I could not get myself to do that. That entire concept just scared me. I thought it would just get stuck. Now here, and bam, see that? I got way too excited and nervous, and my tool got stuck and it skipped, and it just went straight into my bowl. And I considered refilming this entire process, but I wanted you guys to see that sometimes you can just roll with it and your end result is still going to be beautiful. I'm really happy with this bowl. So after I let it set, I started messing with the wave. I would push and pull. I'm using a damp sponge to make sure that the surface that's touching the clay is pretty even. And I'm using my other hand to support the clay as needed from underneath, from the outside. It's funny, I'm really particular, so I think for the next, 10 minutes, I probably did the same thing over and over again and didn't see a lot of change. But I also wanted to make sure that I patched up the small tear that I caused with my tool earlier, and that the patchwork didn't actually show. And I actually did a good job because I already bisque fired this piece and it turned out wonderful. It doesn't have any evidence of my wooden tool going straight through it. There's no cracking on the foot because I compressed it really well, and it's ready for glaze firing. So I hope you guys found this helpful and that you guys enjoy whatever alterations you decide to do with your pieces. Just remember to have fun. This is meant to be a way to express yourself. So I just made a change and undid it right after without even realizing it. So I'm taking a little bit of time to smooth out the clay, and voila,